So I want to thank you so much for the invitation to come and partake in this great work. And I was very honored when Brother Popejoy called me and asked me if I would participate. And I was really overjoyed when he gave me my topic, which is technology, which is my life pretty much in total. But before I get to that, I just want to also acknowledge how much I appreciate the interaction that I've been able to enjoy, the fellowship with you great people. And I will tell you, the interactions with these preaching students gives me great hope for the future of our pulpits and the future of the church. So I thank you. I thank each and every one of you for dedicating your lives in the direction that you're going. I can't wait to see, as we go on through this life, how we interact in the future. So, Rick calls me. He wants me to talk about technology. I was thrilled. And then after we hung up the phone, I'm like, well, wait, technology in the Bible. This is going to be a little tough. And so I started to kind of look around. And I remembered, hey, there it is right there in the Garden of Eden. And I'm feeling just a little bit better, right? But just a little bit. And I thought, well, we surely can't do anything just about the Garden of Eden. So then I remembered, oh, guess what? So there's Moses. And okay, so now I'm feeling really, really good. I'm like, okay, I got this. And so I opened up my trusty iPad and pulled up eSword, and I started looking for technology. And then the chills set in, because guess what? It's not there. So what do you do? What do you do? Well, I went to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, online of course, and I started looking for technology. And what it said there was that technology is the practical application of knowledge, especially in a particular area. It's a capability that's given by the practical application of that knowledge. And it's a manner of accomplishing a task, especially using technical processes, methods, or knowledge. And you know what? Whether we like it or not, technology has become a part of our everyday life. Every commercial we see, every advertisement that we read, from the cars that we drive, the batteries, in fact, even the toothpaste, all are promoting some kind of technology or a new technology. But what is it really? Well, largely the way we talk about technology, it really depends on the context of what we're discussing. So for me particularly, in the medical community, what is technology there? It may be a new device that's been developed or a new procedure, hopefully to change or save lives. In the field of engineering, it's how we apply the tools that we have to create new products. Or what about in education, in the field of education? That's where we've seen a lot of change. We have new ways of now not only presenting information to these students, we have and allow them to interact with knowledge and with this information. So if we combine the definition altogether of the technology from Merriam-Webster, we would say that technology is the application of human knowledge using technical processes and methods, which gives us the capability of accomplishing tasks or goals. And then we combine that and we see in action that it's the tool or set of tools used to accomplish certain tasks or obtain certain goals. Well, technology is a very broad subject, and we've only got 35 minutes. So to narrow it down to talk about technology in the home, we're going to limit the scope of our discussion to things, these examples that you see here in front of us, things such as computers, tablets, cell phones, gaming, even smart TVs. And what do these things all have in common? It makes them, frankly, a threat to us and to the family. They are all connected to the internet. So, although we may not find technology in the Bible, there are certain considerations that we as Christians must make. First of all, that the Bible, its precepts, its authority is not limited to the time before our current level of technology existed. It does not at all. what do we see? And I can't see my slides. Hopefully I've got the right one up. My bifocals aren't strong enough. Matthew 24:35. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but what? My word shall not pass away. The word of the Lord endureth how long? Forever. And the grass withereth, the flower fadeth, but the word of God shall stand forever. So if we look at the technology that we have today, know that this is going to be burned up, but God's word is. So why do I put so much energy and focus on not only the definition of the technology, but also the fact that it's not there? Is because what I see and what scares me a great deal is that confidence. I've seen the confidence in the Word of God eroded. I've seen it eroded whenever we see a dependence increase on technology, and our confidence goes down. I have seen our dependence on technology increase. I have seen a dependence on God decrease, to the point that many indeed worship not our God, but the God of science, as our discussion was this morning around the breakfast table, but also the science or the fields of technology. There are some that would cut off their right arm before they would give up their iPhone. And I will say it's very scary. You know, we, mankind, are very short-sighted. Our memory is very, very short. We seem to think that the situations and the conditions that we live in and deal with each and every day are new and unique. But what does Solomon tell us? What does he say? The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before. Ecclesiastes 1:9 and 10. So as Christians, how do we deal with that? And how do we deal with technology? Well, the reality is, and not popular today, that the faithful Christian life is one of self-discipline. Paul lists self-discipline as one of the 9 fruits of the Spirit when he says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance, against which there is no law. That word temperance deals with self-discipline. And in his letter to Timothy, and I can't read that, 12:13, we're in good shape. In his letter to Timothy, Paul states that, for God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and of sound mind. And the Greek word there for sound mind speaks again to self-control and moderation. So, obedience and self-discipline dictates how we will use technology, how we will treat others and ourselves through technology, what we will access, and how we will spend our time. So let's listen to Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. And if you love my commandments, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. You know, the thing to remember is that technology was created by man. Technology was created by man, and man should control the tool. The tool should not control the man. So, I briefly want to discuss technology in a more positive light, to start off with. In the church. In the churches, we all generally have websites or social media sites that help us to get the message out to those that might be coming to visit with us who want to know what we're about. We have other things and other online means of communication so that we can keep our members, our congregations, otherwise. But it also allows us to extend Bible classes to those that we may not come into face-to-face contact with, beyond the borders of our city, state, even of continents. What great opportunities we have there. And I've even heard of it used to extend Bible studies into prison systems where people are physically not able to go. We also know that the live broadcast of worship services can be a great benefit to those who are shut in. Maybe they can't physically make it to services. And I'm going to stop just a second, and I'm going to say that the faithful Christian, if you are physically able to be in worship services, that's where you need to be. And I will say that there are certain acts of worship that you cannot participate in from a distance, and the communion being one. So it's great to extend that to those that are shut in, but we need to be together. We need to be together. In fact, COVID, what did we see in COVID years? We see everybody forced online. Not everybody, but a great lot. And we have seen congregations fold. We have seen congregations fold, not even in existence anymore, because the members, those that were on the periphery, did not come back. What a tragic blow to the church. And it's no surprise, because as was discussed yesterday around this round table that was had, they discussed the need that we have of affirmation and support and face-to-face time with these brethren, the ones that need our support, that need our encouragement. So, with that, I will move on. I also note, as kind of a last point for the congregation, is that I know of many small congregations, and some that are up north, for example, where they're using online materials to help supplement their teaching for Bible classes and for the preaching in their worship service they would not have any other way. And I know of a couple where they've used that to get them to the point that they matured the men of that congregation to the point that then they could move off and take on the work themselves. So, technology in the church. But we also have technology in the home. I think about those families that are geographically dispersed, as were we for a period of time. Our son was overseas, and how we look so forward to those times when we could get together, right, electronically speaking, and how much then we can keep up with our families even though we are geographically separated. We know that there are many great sites that provide teaching materials that can be used for home Bible study, and I think about WVBS as one, and there's so many. So there's great opportunities there for the church, but then there's also secular learning opportunities, right? How many of us have fixed our car with a YouTube video in one hand and baling wire and duct tape in the other? You know, guilty. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't take for that. And then in our field, we're developing healthcare opportunities for people who are living out in rural West Texas and others who, for their specialty healthcare, would have to travel great distances. And in the past, I've seen they've actually had to physically relocate. So there's great opportunities and great benefit, potential benefit, for technology if it's deployed correctly in the family. Well, so now we move on. Technology as a tool to be used against us. We talk about technology as a tool, again, to be used against us. So I knew what my preconceived notion was of technology and the challenges that we would have and the threat that it presents. So I went out just to broaden my perspective, and I reached out to a lot of different people, both in the church and at my workplace. And I asked them, what do you see as a threat? And without fail, the answer came back very singularly what that threat was: to the children. The threat is to the children. If by the end of this lesson today, I've accomplished one thing, I hope it will be to expand your thoughts and the scope on this to recognize it's not just the children. It's our old, it's our middle-aged, and it's our young. It's people in your age group, and even as old as Tom Moore, that really are at risk. So anyway, in 1 Peter, now correct me anyway, in 1 Peter chapter 2, Peter speaks of false prophets and teachers who would make merchandise of those who would follow after them. So Thayers, in speaking of that make merchandise of, it's a thing to import for sale, to deal in, or to use a person or a thing for gain. Folks, in today's environment, I want you to understand that you and I are the merchandise. Every view that you make, every video that you watch, every second that you dwell on something is monitored and it's logged. And every second that you spend on those sites is worth money to those that are trying to sell us as merchandise. And their goal is to feed us an endless supply of ads, to keep you scrolling and clicking and ordering in order for them to maintain a connection with you for as long as they possibly can. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit at the feet of the man who directed and created Toy Story and Up and Finding Nemo. And during that presentation, he spoke to how they mapped those movies to work on us between our ears, and how they would raise us up and how they would dash us down, how they would extend hope unto us. And that's one thing that makes those movies so popular, because they're building those on neurological responses. And he actually mapped out the different neurochemicals that they're working on to keep us always there, always engaged, and spending millions and millions of money to sit and watch a cartoon. That's not true only of movies. So I would encourage you, whenever you are watching some of the stuff that you see online, to pay close attention to the psychological devices that are employed against us to keep us engaged. I would also acknowledge the fact that it's not by chance. These people are hiring experts in these fields. So we need to be aware that these experts know the physiology and the biochemistry of the brain and actively use that against us to keep us hooked. Lee Health had this to state: using social media can lead to physical and psychological addiction because it triggers the brain's reward system to release dopamine. Dopamine, the feel-good chemical. Dopamine, a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger between our neurons involved in neurological and physiological function. So it's not happenstance when we look at this and we keep clicking and scrolling and looking. They're actively trying to keep us there and hooked. And now there's a new tool, artificial intelligence. Is there anybody in here that hasn't been inundated with that term of late? It's everywhere, is it not? Artificial intelligence. And while it is true that AI is not new, there's a lot about it that's changed. The first thing that's changed is the amount of compute power, the amount of computing power that they can use in artificial intelligence. In days past, you had to spend millions of dollars to put together a computer system that would work with the data sets required for AI. That is no longer the case. You can lease that the same way you lease anything on a daily, weekly, monthly basis from services such as Amazon Web Services or AWS. The second thing required for artificial intelligence to be effective is data. Large sets of data. Quality data. And that's one thing that's changed more recently too. How many of you have Googled yourself to see what your online profiles look like? Anymore with public data sets, they can find out where you have lived, where you live now, how much you spent for your home, what your telephone numbers were, who you're married to, who your kinfolks are, where you've worked. There's a tremendous amount of public information that's available on each and every one of us, no matter how low we've tried to live our lives. It's a tremendous amount. Below that is another layer of data that's not publicly exposed, but is available to these artificial intelligence engines. And then a layer below that, which they call, and you've probably heard of, the dark web. So they know stuff about you that you don't even know that that exposes you. In addition to that, we frequently, often, and unwittingly provide even more information. How often or how many times have you responded to those silly little quizzes on Facebook or something, right? What's your favorite color? What was your last meal? Who was your favorite teacher? What's your favorite color? Oh, yeah, it just seems so, innocent. But guess what? They take that information. And again, this is artificial intelligence, large sets of information, and they start connecting the dots. And as they connect these dots, what they're doing is they're creating a digital portrait of you. Where these things may know you better sometimes than we seem to know ourselves, or at least admit. And so behind the scenes, data is being collected. It shows you what sites you visit, what images you look at, and for how long, which ads catch your attention, what you're searching for, what you're buying. And oh, by the way, they're not relegated to only one site, right? Have you ever searched for something that you were wanting to purchase over here and it pops up on every social media site and every ad, including maybe your hometown paper? These things are all tied together. So all of this power, all this computing power, all of this data that's being collected and curated and stored forever. Forever. That's another thing that's changed. Storage used to be really, really expensive. It is really cheap today. And so it's easy for them to keep this information on you forever. So, you've seen younger people whose lives have been ruined, right, because of something they did silly online. And they came and applied for a job. And someone in your background search finds that you posted something online that was not appropriate. And guess what? They were eliminated from consideration from either a job or even from an education from a university. And I've seen that in the past as well. The internet has a long, long memory. But just remember that your time, that makes you the merchandise. So Peter warns us to be sober, to be vigilant. Because why? Because our adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, seeketh whom he may devour. I would say that that imagery of a roaring lion, doesn't always have the impact or strike the fear in the hearts and the minds of Christians as it should today. Our perception of lions, I believe, is frequently based on visits to the zoo or the sweet renditions that we see as presented in animated movies and cartoons. And I would say that even reality television will never show the cunningness, the ruthlessness, the savagery of the hunt and the kill of the lion. And consequently, I think our minds, our conscience are dulled to the true dangers that Peter has tried to warn us of. We, as Christians, warm and comfortable, safe, often let our guards down. We're not sober. We're certainly not vigilant. To the point that Satan doesn't even have to seek us, but that we willingly and frequently let him in. Rollo, Jason, last night presented a beautiful word picture of a Christian family. And I'm not going to try to reinvent that. It was absolutely beautiful. But if I go to that family, the head of the family, the parents or whatever, and as a salesman, I said, I want to sell you a door. I want to sell you a portal that will enable you to go anywhere that you want to go. You simply step through. Anytime. Would you buy it? Oh, by the way, your spouse and your children also have access to this door. Would you buy that? Oh, there's a little asterisk at the bottom of the contract, and it says, anybody else in the whole world can also come through that door into your home. Unwelcome, unbidden, unannounced. Now would you buy it? And yet we do. Through the devices that we talked about, and through the applications that live on those devices, we do. The dangers for so long now ignored or even denied are now becoming, at least thankfully, more recognized. And the fact that it's very well documented, so well known, acknowledged, and documented. And that's where the things are starting to change. In fact, at Texas Tech Health Sciences, we just recently received over $60 million to deal with mental health issues, largely because of what has happened to our world because of digital media and these kinds of things. We saw this start to rise in 2012. And guess what else was happening around 2012? Just prior to that's when you saw a lot of your social media sites begin to proliferate, and people became more and more and more engaged. So some of the issues, that we deal with, well, I got ahead of myself here. When we talk about the door, we talk about this thing, I want you to know what you're exposing yourself and your family to. That's the most current data that I could find. Look at the numbers. Are they not staggering? How many people in any average month are online on these social media sites? Any of these could potentially have access to you and your family and others. Unbidden, uninvited, and unwelcome. So, as we deal with some of these things, and we talk about this from a mental health perspective, there are real effects. For example, isolation and loneliness. Very well known, well documented, and isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic that the very platforms that were developed to bring us together have instead created an era of digital isolation, where online relationships have replaced real, face-to-face relationships. It is tragic. In addition to that, we want to talk about envy. We talk about envy. In Galatians, the 5th chapter, verse 19, Paul begins the list of the works of the flesh, and in verse 21 he continues with envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and the like, of which I tell you before, as I've told you in the past, they which do those things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Envy. Yesterday in the round table, I forget which of the brothers spoke to the fact that on social media, everyone is perfect. Everyone is perfect. They have the perfect home, the perfect spouse, the perfect children, the perfect job. Everything is perfect. But is that reality? It is absolutely not. In fact, that's a false reality. And yet those of us out here living our real lives often compare ourselves and our life to that which is fake, or at least very heavily curated. And oftentimes that will lead to envy. Envy to the point that you can see in the papers that it leads to physical violence and has even led to murder. What about depression? What about depression? Pantic states that some researchers have associated online social networking with several and severe psychiatric disorders, including depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. Have y'all ever seen these artificial images created online where they apply filters to your real picture and they make you, well, it makes me look like Tom Selleck, which I kind of like. But anyway, but they have this challenge now. People are presenting themselves in ways, and yet when they look in the mirror, that's not what they see. Do you know that they're even developing specialty lines in plastic surgery where they are advocating that they will make you look like that picture? That is absolute insanity. And so is any surprise whenever you can't live up to this digital image of who you think you are, that you might be dealing with depression and depression issues? Absolutely not. It is all artificial. And the mirror that you look in tells that tale. What about cyberbullying? Cyberbullying. Do you know that as of January 2020, that over 44% of all online users report that they, and this is in the U.S. only, that they have experienced some type of cyberbullying or online harassment? And now these cyberbullies are even becoming more professional. It's not just about the people that you interact with or that your children interact with. There are serial cyberbullies out there who, just like a lion, they call out and they find the weak in the herd. And that's who they begin to attack. And they begin to attack you for the purpose of what? Exploiting or getting money, number one. But I think more tragically, number two, and this is often goes to the younger, in fact, younger men even, but also to the women, the fact that they're trying to get you to send pictures. And I'm going to stop. I'll let you take that from where it needs to actually go. So cyberbullying is a huge threat that we see. And we've even seen, if you watch any of the news shows, you'll see that it even leads to some that commit suicide because of what they've been bullied into. Also very tragic. What about false information? What about false information? What do we see in the U.S. today in dealing with? You hear it, fake news. Fake news. It can't be that. I got to hurry. We talk about false information, but that impacts not only us in the U.S. In the secular realm, but also in religion, because the tool sets that we use to promote good and godly information, they use against us to promote those things which are fake. Then we go into this. Influencer. What's an influencer? They're crazy people. There are crazy people that work so hard to bring in these mass audiences, to create, and it's fake. And in fact, I just recently saw on Dr. Phil, where they brought in a social or an influencer to talk about what she did, and she creates this entirely fake person. But you know what? And she recognizes the fact that those that she was promoting her services herself to were negatively impacted by them, but she did not care because she's making a lot of money. But then she also spoke to the fact that it was having a negative influence on her life because she could not live up this whole artificial self that she has created. Oh my. What about stolen or wasted time? As we noted above, as merchandise, our time has value to man. But more importantly, our time has value to God. And we have to make sure that we're able someday to give an account of the time that we've been given, the fact that we have used it appropriately. Do you know that in 2012, it estimated that the average user spent 151 minutes a day on social media, which is 920-ish hours a year. Is that not insane? You talk about a waste of time. We need to hurry and talk about the home. What about the bruised home? The time that shifted away from face-to-face interactions and shifted more to screen time. What about the fact that we have broken homes? Broken homes. 25% of cell phone owners in a marriage or partnership have felt that their spouse or partner was distracted by a cell phone even when we were together. 8% of a committed relationship have argued with their spouse over the amount of time that they spend online. What about the fact that this harbors the digital or online affair? And a digital affair is just as much of an affair as a face-to-face. Both are sin, and both will condemn you to hell. What about secret sin? Secret sin. Rollo talked yesterday about a 12-year-old boy. Well, he wasn't 12, he was 12 years old at the time, but I believe he's 18 years old today, when he came and said, I've got a problem with porn because I accidentally went there. Well, it's not an accident anymore. Now they physically come after you. They are presenting this to you. It's one click and you are through. Technology in subcultures. And I want you to pay careful attention here. The internet has revolutionized the way people communicate and has allowed a great many people to find like-minded people all across the world. And as a result, hundreds of thousands of subcultures have formed based on groups of people who share the same interests, beliefs, and lifestyle. Therefore, there are too many subcultures out there to name. The general rule is this: if you can think of a special interest, lifestyle, or belief, there'll be people out there somewhere who also share in that. There are some that are innocent, motorheads, for example. But what about those that are not? Sex trafficking, drug abuse, drug trafficking, and the like. You know, was it a surprise to you how quickly this rise in the LBG, whatever thing, movement and this whole woke thing have sprung up? It's been there, but we've been separated. But now we're together, and technology has turbocharged those kinds of things. They have brought people together, unfortunately. So the key here is to make sure that we are not allowing technology to control us. How do we protect our homes? How do we make? Well, I'm going to tell you, it takes effort, and it takes time. So the first thing we have to do is we have to keep current. We have to actually put the effort into going out there and finding out what's available, what the challenges are. Then we have to ensure that all the controls are in place. We need to start at the peripheral. Start with your internet service provider. Make sure that you've enabled all the controls that there are. They may be called parental controls, but they apply to all of us. And then you go on down to the endpoint or the device. Every device is different. Make sure that you've got the controls. And then you go up the application side. Make sure that the applications are all of, and you have to do this over and over and over again. As a brother said earlier today, it resets. It seems like every time that you turn around. And this was very scary to me. Something as innocent as some gaming site, and I'll just let you read that quickly, where this person, because of a function within that game, displayed or exposed that 11-year-old child's physical address, allowed this pervert to come in here and reach out and try to get that person to come out and interact with them. We have to be engaged. We have to be engaged. And I'm going to flip down through here because my time is up. And the final point that I want to make on this is that we as a church need to be engaged. I heard of a study recently where they reached out to people basically your age, college-age folks, and they classified two different types of people, those that had stayed with the church and stayed faithful and those who had not. They asked them this questionnaire. Of the ones that had remained faithful, they said that 50% of them had teaching on the appropriate use of technology in their home congregation. So thank you for doing this today. Of those that were not faithful, they said 8% or less had reported that they had dealt with that in their home churches. 50% or less. So I would finally state that if you are unable to control the technology, and it has control of you, look right here, and you do that. So I would ask that you all work with your congregation, support yourself, reinforce in yourself and with others our trust and faith in God and His Word above all, over the faith and dependence that we have on the technology that we have today, that we would recognize technology as a tool to be controlled and used for the good, and let's use it for all the good we can, and let's do away with all the bad that is. Let's do whatever it takes to protect ourselves and our families and our brethren from the evil influences of technology. And let us never let technology, our love for it or its influence, cause us to fall, to lose sight of our ultimate goal, which is an eternity with our God and Father in heaven someday. And I thank you so much for your time.